The trivia game is just like any game show you watch on the TV, right? There are players and the judge, right? So over here at the bottom is the judge, and in our design, in this case, we have 3 players. So for each player, it has 2 indicator lights. One is the fault, the other one is yellow light, and also player has a push button. All right. So with judge, it has 2 push buttons. One is start, one is reset. When judge press the start button, the indicator light will turn on. Right. So at the end of each term of the question, the judge will press the reset. Right. So there are different rules on this design. All right. Let me just start with a demo so we can understand the requirement. All right. So okay. So over here, when judge press the start, right, you can see the indicator light turn on, and any player press the button, whoever press first, in this case, that's for example player 2 press the button, it got yellow light. So then the player can answer questions, right? After that, remember this is only version 1, right? This is very simple version. The judge will press the reset to clear that turn, then start the next question, right? So there are a couple other rules. All right. So before judge start, like that means the start light haven't turned on yet. If player press the button before the jump start, it should get a fall light. Right. Any player can get a fall light. Right. Potentially all 3 of them can get a fault. Right. And then judge should reset and then start the game. So in this question, for example, if player 1 press button first and player 1 got a yellow light, and the other 2 players, if they press the button after player 1, they shouldn't get anything to turn on. You can see here it's just like nothing happened because player 1 already pressed the button first, right? So this is the result, right? So like I said, similar to any other game shows, right? And so the other thing with this one is that how do we analyze, how do we design the program, the ladder logic like this? Because it's just a word descriptions. So I chose this as an example. It's just it's almost well known, right? So everybody understands what's supposed to happen, and then but no diagram or no rough design for you to use as a reference. How do you start with it, right? So that is one thing you need to start to practice by this. So one suggestion I talk about on the lectures that you need to have some steps to analyze those questions. The first one is that you need to think about those requirements, and most importantly, you need to figure out what is the PLC input, what's the output. So that's the first step. Then on the second step, you focus on the output, because with your ladder logic, eventually you're gonna either energize or de-energize the output. So that's why we need to focus on output first, right? Target on the output. Then we on the next step, on step 3, right? So we need to start to organize the conditions. Think about the descriptions, right? Because the output under certain conditions should turn on or turn off, right? So we already learned a lot of that, right? So the 3 basic format, and or not. So all the other logic is just a combination of these 3. Right? So we also learned that one of the best way to organize this sort of information is that to use the truth table. Right? Once we get the truth table, we can translate the instruction from the tag values. Right? So I will explain that. All right. So also we have other techniques we learned. Seal in, right? So that's what we learned on the 3-wire control, right? So we use the output to bypass part of the input, right? To what we call the large seal-in or bypass, right? We already mentioned that. There are also other techniques we can learn, talk about later, right? So let's look at this trivia game, right? So as we just talk about on the trivia game, we need to figure out input output, right? So if you can look at here, so on the first step, we need to figure out in this game, right? There are judge and also players. We only use one player as an example, right? So then that'll be enough for us to analyze all of the input outputs, right? So with judge, over here I gave you clue for input, right? Input, there are 2 of them, right? For judge, we understand those will be the buttons, right? Start button, judge start button, or judge reset. I'll just use a short format, right? And then the output will be the start PL. You saw that the demo, right? The pilot light should turn on, right? So let me bring that on the pictures on there. Problem is with that, I cannot have both on the screen. So let me see here, right? So this one will be over here, right? The start button will be here, and reset button is this, right? From the demo, if you remember, right? With players, it also has input and output, but with input, it's very simple, right? You can see here, I gave you a clue. There's only one input. That will be the push button, right? Which is here. The push button is here. But output, we have 2 of them, because for each of the player we have the year light and fall light. So that's the first step you should do when you analyze the questions like this, right? And then after that, if you remember, we talk about the next step, we focus on the output, right? Because we need to energize and de-energize the output at a certain condition, right? So that's what we're going to do with the design. All right, I already have this design in here, so let me zoom in on here. So okay, here we go. The first part, you can see the judge start PB, judge reset PB, right? So that's what we need to energize and de-energize, right? So with large, we energize the pilot light, right? So over here, when I press this button, you can see the start PL being larged, right? So that's how we energize the judge output, and the reset button will clear that, right? And reset button is here and unlatch the pilot light. We already learned these 2 instructions. So for each player, right, we use player 1 as an example. You can see here. So players fall light, players year light, right? So because we use large unlatch in this design, we have to separate them. When the fall light turn on, it's that player 1 press the button. So that means over here, the button, player 1 button, press the button before the game start. The game start indicated by the start PL, right? You cannot use the button as the condition, because the button is the button. You can see here, right? I didn't use the button as a condition. Instead, I use a pilot light, right? Because the button, the judge button, is a momentary button, right? You cannot assume the judge press and hold the button all the time, right? But as a result, the pilot light will turn on and turn off. So that's why we use the start PL, right? So in this case, you can see right now judge haven't pressed the button yet, right? So if the player 1 press the button, right now pilot light is off, right? We use exam off, that become true. Right? You can see the green bar. So once we press the player 1 button, the fall light will be latched. So that's what you see, why the red fall light turn on. And then same as before, when judge press the reset button, will reset that, right? Will unlatch it, clear that, right? So that is with the fall light. And with the yellow light, same thing. We need to figure out when we should be latching that. When should we unlatch? Unlatch is the same, right? So we can just use the reset button. So obviously the yellow light should turn on only after the game starts. So that's where again we use start PL as the condition. And player 1 button, obviously press the button, right? And then you can see over here the other two condition is the one we have to include, because we want to make sure in this case, as a result, you will energize the player 1 yellow light. That means player 1 is the first one press the button, right? So how do you make sure that? Again, you cannot use player 1 PB. So if you use player 2 PB like over here, then that's wrong. Same as before, you cannot assume the player press the button and hold it, because they are momentary button. They press then release. That is like you have to check the result. In before the case, we use the start PL as a condition on here. So in this case, same thing. We need to use the yellow light, right? So when player 1 press button, if the other two players yellow light haven't turned on yet, that means he is the player 1 is the first one press the button. So that's why we need to go on to energize the pilot light. All right. So that's see that result. All right. So in this case, if we judge press the button, start PL turn on, right? And then you can see here with the nobody press button yet, right? So they become true. And if at this moment, if player 1 press button, player 1's yellow light should turn on here, right? So reset will clear out. But for this time, if after judge start, if player 3 press the button, right? Notice player 3 yellow light haven't turned on yet. So if you do the same design with all the other two players, then this condition will become false, because player 3 already got yellow light. We use exam off, then that will be logic false. At this time, if player 1 press the button, you can see the button over here is being pressed. Then because the player 3 already got the yellow light, player 1's yellow light will not be able to turn on. So that is how do you analyze the conditions. And also if you go through that lab procedure, that's what I mean by the truth table, right? And then translate that into instructions by the tag value, right? So that's a very good exercise we can practice with latch and latch. All right. So let's go back to the program again. All right. So if let me bring up that over here. If you look at all the rest of the program, player 2 and player 3 is just identical, same copy paste from the player 1. You can make changes on that, right? So you can see altogether there are 13 rounds on this. You can design in this way, and there, of course, there are also different ways. So you can see here, I just want to show you a different way to organize the program. The same result, right? So you can see here, over here, yeah, I add another condition, right? So if any player got a fault, yeah, the judge can now start the game, right? So you understand this? You can insert those three conditions. No one should get a fault, right, before you launch the pilot line. So, and then all the reset button can be grouped into one run. So you can see here, basically all the output can be cleared by the reset button. So you can you don't have to put them into parallels, right? You can put them in series and also in two parallel. I just organize them into this way, easy for checking the program, right? Then over here we check player 1's button and player 2 and player 3, and each player has two situations, because you can press the button before after the game start or before the game start. Before the game start, you launch the fault. After game start, you check the other two players, you launch the elite. So basically the same way. It just organized in different format, right, for you to look at it. Right, so that's the large unlatch solution, and let's look at the unlatch and the seal in. Let's look at the seal in. So in seal in, the difference is that we use OTE, right? We use OTE's instruction to replace the OTL, OTU. So with this, you have to think about the 3-wire control, right? The 3-wire control we designed. All right, so now I need to switch to this routine. So seal in. So now let's try it, just in case if you have some setup right now, right? So you can see right now this one is true. This by seal in, yeah. So you can see here, this one 101, this one 3. So by seal in. So I'm calling this by seal in 1, this routine, right? So start PL logic, same thing, right? So like I just mentioned, if you think about what you learned from the 3-wire control, right? So this is just like a motor, right? You have a start button, which is judge start, and then you have a multiple stop button, right? So all the other conditions, it's just like a stop button. So the stop button has to be false, right? So right now they are green, right? So we use exam off, right? So once we press start, so you can see the start, right? So that's typical 3-wire control. It's just variation, right, based on the tag value. And then player 1 press the button, got player 3. That's from before, right? From the before. So let me reset it and start. And player 1 press button, got the yellow light. So you can see that's the condition here, right? So, and if judge haven't started the game, player 1 press the button, that'll be the fall light. That'll be on here. Right. So this is the version 1, right? So we use different ways to energize the output. One way to use large and large, we separate them, right? Or we use these we call seal in, the OTE, output energize instruction. We have to consider both. Typical application is just like a 3-wire control.